Hello everybody, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to MarketWhiz. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who watch my videos and show some love. So today is the most important thing that we're going to discuss, and that is the news trading, that how you can anticipate that where is market going and what is the main thing in the news trading. So every month traders face a set of huge impact news events that can move the markets within seconds. If you're ever wondered why the dollar spikes at 8:30 a.m. or why gold runs wild during Fed announcements, this video will break it all down for you. Let's go through the major economic events you must watch when they happen and how they affect your trading decisions. Now, one of the most important things in the trading is NFP. So what is NFP? Basically, NFP stands for non-farm payroll, and I've created my own PDF. I'm going to share that in the video as well. In the description, you can see from there. So what is NFP? NFP is when first Friday of every month at 8:30 a.m. New York time it happens, and why it matters. The reason the NFP shows how many jobs were created in the US economy, excluding farming and other fields. It's direct measure of economic health. And how does it impact? Strong jobs are equal to US strength, stocks may rise, gold may get weakened, and weak jobs may get US dollar drop, safe havens like gold rise, Fed may cut rates sooner. And the pro tip that I want to give you about this is never jump in right at release. Wait for the first 5 to 10 minutes of volatility to settle in the market. All right. So this is the one of the best, or I'll say most volatile event in the market that you need to know and you need to keep an eye on. Then there is another one, which is the CPI, which stands for Consumer Price Index. Now, what is Consumer Price Index? So basically, when mid-month, usually at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time zone, it happens, and it is used for measuring inflation. All right, CPI measures inflation, the key driver of Fed policies. And how does it impact? Higher than expected CPI, Fed may hike rates, which means US dollar bullish, stock will become bearish, and gold will drop. In a simple ways, the lower CPI, Fed may cut rates, US dollar become weakened, stocks and gold rally. So what does it mean? Basically, when the dollar is higher, let's say when the dollar is higher, okay, when the dollar is moving upside, the stocks will move toward the downside. That's what it means basically. And if dollar moves toward the downside, the US stocks will move toward the upside. That is the simple thing. That is all you need to know. That is how CPI works. All right. After CPI, you got another news event, which is PMI. Now, what is PMI? It is basically Purchasing Managers Index. Okay, so PMI is Purchasing Manager Index. When it happens, first business day of month, and it usually happens at 9:45 or 10 a.m. ET, which is Eastern Time Zone. And services PMI a few days later. Now that's something you need to know. All right, why it matters? PMI is forward-looking gauge of business activity. Above 50 growth, below 50 is contraction. All right, the index movement above 50 is known as growth and below 50 is known as contraction. And how does it impact the market? Strong PMI is optimism for growth. USD up, equities up. Simple. And weak PMI, recession fears. USD weak, risk of flow into gold and bonds. Pro tip about this one: is flash PMI released earlier usually give the market first reaction. So in personally, I'm not gonna give you any tip about like trading the PMI. All right. Well, I say avoid all of these news, but if you like to trade news, then you need to know the basic knowledge. All right. And then there is another most important and I'll say most volatile news trading, which is FOMC. Now, what is FOMC? FOMC is Federal Reserve meeting and minutes. When it happens, 8 scheduled meeting per year. Minutes usually released at 2 p.m. Eastern Time Zone about 3 weeks after each meeting. All right. And why it matters, this is where interest rates are decided, the single biggest drive of USD and global liquidity. Market impacts. How does it impact? So the hawkish tone, which is rate hikes, tighter policies, USD strong, gold weak, stocks drop, and dovish tone, which is the rate cuts easing. So what does it mean? USD will be weak, gold and equities will rally. Pro tip is always check the dot plot and Powell press conference tone, not just the rate discussion only. But also just you do not trade the FOMC. And then there is another which is PCE. Now this is a lot of people don't know about it, which is personal consumption expenditures. When end of each month at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Zone it happens, and basically it is about the Fed preferred inflation measures. They trust it more than CPI, and it is most important than CPI. All right. How does it impact? Higher PCE, inflation sticky, Feds keep rates higher, USD will be up. Lower PCE, inflation easing, Fed may cut, gold and equities rally. Pro tip is focus on PCE for a cleaner read. All right. And then there's the last one that is the most important news event and which only happens once in a year, and that is Jackson Hole Symposium. Once a year, recently just happened at the last August. Why it matters? Global central bankers gather to discuss monetary policies. Often the Fed chair uses it to signal long-term directions in the market. Market impact. One speech here can shake the dollar, gold, and the stock indices. Pro tip, treat it like a FOMC light. Powell's wondering matter more than anything else. All right. But yeah, this is the best 6 events in the market that you need to know if you want to trade the news, and you need to get knowledge about these 6 events. The first one is non-farm payroll. The second is CPI. The third is PMI. The fourth is FOMC. And the fifth is PCE. And the sixth is Jackson Hole Symposium. So these are the 6 main events in the market that help the market to move. Now we're gonna move something more interesting, which is how you guys can trade the news. I know this video is getting a little bit more, I'll say, in a length, but if you want to trade the news, you need to know each and everything. So how you gonna trade the 8:30 a.m. news? This is one of the most important thing. If you want to trade the news, you need to hear this part. This is the most common news event at the 8:30 a.m. news is the most common news event. Either one of two things will happen. 8:30 a.m. will be manipulated and 9:30 a.m. will be a distribution. So let's say this is 8 a.m. open and market was moving somewhere around the buy side and start consolidating. What will happen? 8:30 will strike up and cause some sort of turtle soup and then move toward the downside, and then the 9:30 will occur. 9:30 will come somewhere around this 8:30 a.m. PD array and then simply move toward the downside. All right, so this is how the 8:30 news will work. So what will happen at 8:30? The market will open and market will start consolidating. 8:30 will cause some sort of manipulation, and then it will cause a reversal. All right, and the 930 will work as distribution over here. So accumulation, manipulation, and distribution, you have to identify that, and you can use any time frame alignment if you want. So that's 8:30 news. And here's another part that you need to know. Just before 9:30 a.m. we have not taken the liquidity. 9:30 a.m. will run and reverse quickly. As I said, what will happen, that 9:30, as soon as 9:30 occur, 9:30 will run somewhere in the PD area of 8:30. All right, let's say there's an FVG over here. 9:30 will spike over here and quickly reverse again toward the original direction to form distribution. That's how you trade 8:30 a.m. news. I'm going to show you some real example as well, which is the yesterday's example, like over here. Let's move towards some smaller time frames with 15 minutes, and I'll show you guys. So yeah, here we got the 8:30. What just happened yesterday? If you see, this was the 8:30 news. All right, we just swept the recent day buy side liquidity over here, the weekly and the daily buy side. This is the daily buy side, which is swept by the market. And then what happened at 9:30? Let me just quickly go in here in 1 minute so that you guys can see. So this was 8:30 move that we got over here. Market did a lot of rally toward the buy side, but there was no buy side left. So what just happened at 9:30? This is the 9 a.m. open. So this is basically open of 9 a.m. Let me just see. Okay, so what do you see? We got the stacked highs over here, which is got covered by the one liquidity sweep, which is a turtle soup in the market. And what we can do, that we can enter over here. I know the stop will be a little bit bigger, over like 30 pips, which is a kind of bad thing, but yeah, if you can just target this area, which is like the 50% of the recent range, you still got like 203 pips, which is 7-hour trade. And since you don't get any trade over here, you're quite confused that how I'm gonna do trading. So see, this is the 9. So this is the 9 a.m. candle. This hole is a 9 a.m. candle. What does it show? That there is a no clear form and there is no clear range. If you use the constant encroachment of this recent wick instead of anything else, you still get the trade over here. Target this high, and you can target the nearest strong liquidity, which is over here. You still got the 150 pips. And we did this trade yesterday, and how I took this trade was quite simple. We took this trade after 10 a.m. open. Let me just, yeah, over here. I got the 10 a.m. open. I took my trade after this CISD, and we targeted somewhere around here. The breakdown will be provided. You can see the whole breakdown of the trade on my socials, which is like 80 pips. So we just cover like 80-90 pips over here by having this stop loss. That's how I do trading. So we got the news at 8:30. All right, we waited for the whole 1.5 hour move to get this trade. This is how you trade 8:30 a.m. all right, and remember, when the 8:30 news happen, the 9:30 will act as distribution. All right, the 8:30 is manipulation, and 9:30 then will act as distribution. So let's move towards some other examples. So we got another news, which is, let me just quickly get it. Yep. Now, sometimes what happened, the 10 a.m. news, or I'll say the 8:30 and 9:45 a.m. news. These are the news that happen sometimes in the market. For the 9:45 move, recently there was a news in the recent month, which was ISM service PMI. So the day was like 5 August. Let me just move to the 5 August. We can just use the replay mode, which will be easier for all of us. So if you guys see, here we got the news. Let me just mark that 5 August. So what we're gonna do now, here's the twist. Before the news, which was ISM and PMI, both news at the same time, which is 10 a.m. open. So what you gotta do, you can see that we have clearly tapped into this FVG, and then we also created the total soup over here. So what we're gonna do, we got this clear area over here, and let's move toward the 1 minute. On 1 minute, you can see that you clearly are in the high time frame IFVG. So let's move. We just tap this FVG. You can see we just tap this FVG. So the 8:30 news, basically, this is for this two-stage news event. Always wait for until 10 a.m. open. Sometimes you got the news at 8:30 and then at 9:45. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna wait for the 10 a.m. open. The market usually consolidate in a seek and destroy pattern before the real manipulation and move begins at the 10 a.m. All right. So what happens that what market gonna do? Something like, let's say you got the news at 8:30 and this is 8 a.m. open. What market gonna do? 8 a.m. open, and this is, let's say, 9:30. What market gonna do? Market gonna create some sort of this type of pattern, and then 9:30 happens. What market gonna do? Take the high, take the low, and a gate. So now you don't know where the market going. What you're gonna do, you're gonna wait for the 10 a.m. open and wait for some sort of rejection. So what I mean by that is, let's say this is your third 8:30, like this is your 8:30, this is your 9:30, and let's say this is your 10 a.m. open. Now 8:30, what will happen? Market take this low, form some sort of impulsive move, and then again start consolidating. Then again there will be 9 a.m. open, and at 9:30 you're gonna see some sort of manipulation toward the upside and toward the sell side as well. After that, what you're gonna do is that you're gonna get again some sort of consolidation, and you're gonna plan your real trade at 10 a.m. open. How you're gonna do that? There will be some sort of high time from FVG or some order blocks, CISD. There can be any period in the 9:30 leg that is going to get respected, and then you can get some sort of good reaction. This is how you trade the two news events in a single day. All right. When you got the two news event, which is like 8:30 a.m. and 9:45 a.m., you're gonna wait for 10 a.m. open. Let's go somewhere around. So this is basically the home sales existing, which is at 10 a.m. open, which is a kind of good thing. We're gonna trade this news like right now. So if you see, you got this order block, which is clearly getting respected. You're gonna move towards some sort of 15 minute to see the clear and more refined zone. Now here's the twist. As you can see, what just happened, we created the lows. Okay, this low is still untapped by the market. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wait. Yes, so we just get a little bit more. So now this is my model as well, which I say I use this forever model. You just swap the recent day sell side, you just tap into the high time frame, which is this order block. Well, this is the whole order block on high time frame, but on 15 minute, this is your order block as well. So if you see, you just tap the constant encroachment of 15 minute order block. You're gonna move toward the 1 minute. See, this is your 1 minute chart looks like. And now you swap this, you got the inversion, you also got your CISD over here. You can place your trade target somewhere. This is your near strong liquidity, this, and then let it run. Yep, so this is it. This is how you trade the news. And if you can just go here and see the RR and the pips, you just cover 100 pips and 6.5 RR. That's how you trade the news. All right. I'm not saying trading news is a good thing. Keep that in mind. It's a gambling. But if you want to trade the news, that's how you trade. I usually go for the 1 hour after the news because the market is settled down and we know on which direction is market going to move. That's how I do trading. Now we're going to move toward another thing, which is the 10 a.m. news. How you're going to trade the 10 a.m. news? It's quite simple, quite easy. When we have 10 a.m. news, always wait for 9:30 a.m. first. This is the key rule to trade 10 a.m. open. If 9:30 was a manipulation, you can expect 10 a.m. to be the distribution. And if 9:30 was a manipulation, keep an eye on the 4-hour candle closure to close within the previous candle. Since 10 a.m. is the start of a new 4-hour candle, if Asia and London are clearly trending in one direction, there is only 10 a.m. news. Anticipate the 10 a.m. news to wipe out the price action from London and Asia. Summary: 9:30 a.m. manipulation and 10 a.m. is simply distribution. That's how the market works. In a simple way, this is 9 a.m. open, market was moving something like this, and then 9:30 occurs and market just did something like sweeping the highs and then moving towards the downside. Now 10 a.m. opens. What 10 a.m. will do? 10 a.m. will tap into the PD area of 9:30 manipulation and then move toward the real estate. All right, that's how you're gonna trade. This will be your accumulation, this will be your manipulation 9:30, and this will be your distribution at 10 a.m. We also got this example over here. Let me just remove this. The trade we just did recently, that we did in a few seconds ago, was the 10 a.m. open. Let me just go to 15 minutes ago. Yeah, this trade was 10 a.m. open that we did. You can see this was 10 a.m. open. Here you got the time as well. This is your time, 10 a.m. open. So this was 10 a.m. open. That's how you trade the news. That is the most important thing. And I just gave you all the secret sauce. There's no secret sauce, just practice and your precision that gonna help you in the trading. All you need to know, I have given you all the knowledge. If you want to deep dive into this, you can go and search as well. And if you want to learn from me, you can just write what you want to learn next. I will keep bringing the content on what you guys need. So thank you so much. I hope you guys like the video. I'm gonna meet you in the next video. Keep smiling, be happy.